Hey, crew, and welcome to Trenches the podcast. Today, we are meeting with Haley Fritz, the founder of Breezy's Nasal Strips, a modern nasal strip brand that is reimagining a traditionally clinical product into something stylish, functional, and confidence boosting. Inspired by her own struggles with nasal breathing, Haley built Breezy's from the ground up as a solo founder, managing everything from product development to marketing while also working a full time job in the film industry. Let's get into the trenches. Hey, crew, and welcome back to Trenches. I'm your host, Milan Terez. On this show, we have unfiltered conversations with entrepreneurs in the messy middle. We dig into the experiments, defining decisions, disasters, pivots, and breakthroughs that shaped their companies long before the world was watching. Before we get into it, if you like this episode, which I know you will, please take a moment and like, subscribe, and share this episode to your group chat. Hi, Haley. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to dig into Breezy's and your founder story today. But as all of these podcasts start out, what trench are you in right now?
Honestly, I think the biggest trench I'm in right now is balancing everything. As you mentioned, I have a full-time job in the film industry. I work at Warner Brothers full-time. So just balancing deadlines at my full-time job and then also deadlines for Breezy's has been a little bit difficult for me lately.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you brought up balance. It's one of our core pieces that I love to ask founders how they're doing it. And we're definitely going to dig into how you balance it all throughout this episode. So if you are a founder out there listening or watching and you also have a full time job, tune in because
Yeah.
she is going to give us all the tips and tricks on how to keep both your business running, your personal life running, and your job running at the same time. So let's dig into Breezy's a little bit. Walk us through your background before starting Breezy's.
Yeah, so I've been working in the film industry for about 7 years now, which is insane to me. But before that, I went to school in Virginia at James Madison University. So I studied media arts and design, which kind of was a full encompassment of all sorts of things, film, design, and just like media. And there I learned a lot about design through Illustrator and Photoshop. But then I also studied mostly film, and that's what path I took when I moved out to Los Angeles in 2018. And since then, I've worked at companies like DreamWorks, Skydance Animation, and also Warner Brothers Animation right now. But recently, I started Breezy's in 2024. I launched. And so I used a lot of my background in design to design Breezy's. So it was like a fun little twist from where I started to where I am now.
That is so cool. I don't have too many friends who work in the film industry. My background's in music and music business. So that's the entertainment space that I'm typically in. So I love connecting with other creators in the entertainment space and especially in animation, which is by far my favorite type of film
Amazing.
over and over again. So you've been in entertainment, you're working in film. And before this podcast, we were chatting a little bit that you're second generation entrepreneur and
Yeah.
your parents are entrepreneurs as well. What did you learn from them growing up about entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So my mom, she started her own business when I was young. She is a real estate broker, and also real estate agent. And she just kind of taught me throughout my whole life. I went with her to every showing. I was in the car with her. I was listening in on those phone calls every moment. And I was her side seat driver, making sure we were getting to the houses. But she kind of taught me everything is figure outable. Even if you think that you don't know something, there's a way to figure it out. You can ask someone, you can look it up. She just really encompassed confidence. She never was, oh, I don't know how to do that. She always was, we'll figure it out. It's fine. And yeah, my dad recently started his own coffee shop in North Carolina. It's so cute. I love going there. He makes really good coffee, especially for someone who doesn't drink coffee, which is insane. But he just kind of taught me a lot about community building and what it means to create a place that people can come to and feel welcome and safe. And I think that's something that I really put into Breezy's. I want it to feel like when you go to our Instagram page, you can see yourself in the brand and you can see, you wearing Breezes and feel comfortable expressing yourself, but also breathing better with the nasal strip.
I love that. It's really cool that you had parents who were entrepreneurs as well. Both of my parents were also in real estate growing up. So I thoroughly
You get
identify
it.
with doing your homework in the car, going to showings, spending your weekends at open houses, closings, the whole thing. I remember there was a closing office that my parents would always go to. And eventually I was there so much, they literally set up a little like play area for me because
Oh,
that's
that's
how many
nice.
hours I was clocking in the office. So I always say that I grew up in an office. And now it's so funny that at our age now, I don't work in an office. I grew up in an office and now I don't work in an office. So that's super funny. And while going through your childhood and watching your parents build their confidence as entrepreneurs and follow their dreams, what were the top 3 tips that they gave you throughout your founder's journey over the past, what, 2 years of Breezy's?
Yeah. My mom has so much advice. Like anytime I am freaking out about something, she's the first person I call. I think the best advice is that she's just like slow down and take your time, but also don't feel bad about not being ready. I think is the biggest thing. Like I said, she really just thinks everything is figure outable. Asking questions is a big thing that she's taught me. Like I remember always like being, "Oh my gosh, mom, we can just Google this." But she would call somebody up and be like, "Hey, I don't get how this is working." But I think that I've learned from her, like, it's so much easier to just ask someone who knows the answer than trying to Google it and find it yourself. So just like being confident and like not knowing things.
Mm.
And I think that's like the biggest advice that I really need starting a business because I'm sure founders who are listening now, none of us know what we're doing when we're starting out. Unless you like went to school for it and you've had the background, a lot of us are just figuring it out as we go. So she really teaches me it's okay to not know everything. And I think I carry that with me a lot.
And that's such good advice for
Yeah.
sure. It's one of the fundamentals when you're building a business is truly believing that you can figure out anything and everything and also being connected to the right person who can answer those difficult questions in the moments where you just don't know what to do or you have a simple question but AI and Google are just not cutting it.
No. Sometimes ChatGPT says the craziest stuff. And I'm like, I think I need to check this.
You're like, this is not sitting right in the soul.
No.
So that makes a ton of sense. And what has been the best advice that you've gotten from your dad and him starting his coffee shop?
He has taught me a lot about just making sure you're having fun. He loves his coffee shop. To him, it's just his pride and joy. He wakes up excited every morning. He goes at 5 in the morning to get to his coffee shop and he loves it. And he loves just talking with the people and seeing who he can meet that day and what new flavors he can make. And I think that has been really helpful too because I do focus a lot on business and like making sure I'm doing the right thing all the time. But then you also have to remember to like make sure you're having fun and like you're being creative and you're doing things that you enjoy because I think that's what starting a business is like it's an outlet for yourself. Like you're creating something that's an extension of yourself. And so you have to make sure you're enjoying it.
Absolutely. You have to have fun. And that's partly why people start their businesses is I'm forgetting the quote, but if you do something that you love, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
And where you are at in your business, your past launch, it is the fun part. It's probably been fun all the way around, but this is truly the fun part is once you get into scaling. And I
Yeah.
want to dig a little bit into your personal story and how you actually created these strips. And we mentioned in your intro that this was coming from a personal need. How
Yeah.
did you decide that nasal strips would be the best first business for you to build?
Yeah. So growing up with entrepreneur parents, I always kind of was like, that looks interesting. So I kind of had that entrepreneurial bug since I was little. But I always was telling myself, I don't want to start something just to start something. I want it to be something that really means something to me and something that can help people. And so I would think of ideas and they'd come and pass, but nothing ever really sparked that, like, oh, this is it until I was out with some friends and I was talking about wearing nasal strips. And I was like, they work so well. I don't know if you guys have problems breathing, but I like simply can't breathe through my nose. And I was like, "I just wish they were so much cuter. They're so ugly. I hate when I have to put them on in front of my boyfriend at nighttime. I'm like, turn the lights off, you know?" Um, and I just wish, like, there was something like Starface with pimple patches. And then I was like, "Hold on a second." And the moment I said that out loud to my friends at that bar, I was like, "Oh, wait, this is giving me that, like, fire that I've been kind of looking for." And then on the drive home from meeting with those friends, I was thinking about it, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And, like, the name Breezy's came to me on that drive home. I was, "Breathe easy with Breezy's. Oh, that's so cute." And I remember coming home and bursting into the door and telling my boyfriend, "I'm gonna start a nasal strip brand." And he was like, "Okay." Um, and yeah, it was just that feeling of, I can't let this one go. This feels very personal to me, and I know that it can help girls who are having the exact same problem as me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a cool experience when you get that light bulb moment for your brand and your brand name. It's been so funny having founders on the podcast. A lot of them, the name has come immediately. It has
Really?
been product and the name comes quickly after. And that's how I work too, is the name
Yeah.
usually comes, if not beforehand,
Yeah.
actually comes with the product. So that's really, really cool that you got the lightning bolt moment at the same time. And for those who may be having nasal breathing problems or people who don't, how does a nasal strip actually work?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people don't know. And like I'll go to events a lot and give people nasal strips and they're like, "Is this for pore strips?" And I'm like, "No." So they are little bands that stick to the outside of your nose, and there's plastic bands inside that are flexible, but they want to straighten out. So when you stick it to your nose, it just pulls out gently. So it's nothing like intense or anything. It's just a very subtle lift of the outside of your nose, and it makes your nasal passages open. So it helps you breathe a lot better, and it helps a lot for people with deviated septums and also allergies.
Ooh.
Myself, I have both.
So if we have any allergy girlies out there, it is springtime. May have to go get some breezies to make your springtime a little bit better. And for those girlies and men out there who are aspiring founders who know that they want to make a physical product, what would be your advice to them?
I would say just Google everything. Like, Google as much as you have, like, any questions you have, write them down, Google them. That's literally all I did. I luckily did have a friend who I knew had started a brand. So, also, if you have any other founder friends, definitely reach out to them. But specifically for products, I think finding a manufacturer is definitely the first step, and just making sure you can get the product made. That was the hardest part for me. I had crazy ideas in the beginning and went through a whole process that was useless, but you have to go through stuff like that when you're starting out because you have to learn and, make mistakes. But yeah, I just definitely finding a manufacturer was the first step in the process.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense. We talk about product development and manufacturing and operations a lot on this podcast. So, if finding a manufacturer is the first step, what are the steps following that? And what were some missteps that you made that may have cost you time and money?
Yeah. Yeah, manufacturers are tough because you really want to find the one that works for you. And the first step is getting samples. And I got so many samples, and samples are not cheap. So you have to really, because they don't want to give you samples because they assume you're not going to come back. That's usually what it is. So they make you pay a lot of money. But I think it's really worth it to try out a lot of manufacturers because the first person that you reach out probably isn't going to be the right one. For example, with Breezy's, I really want them to stick well. That's a big thing for me because I've used nasal strips in the past where you put them on. 3 hours later, they're just peeling off, and it's just the worst. Tickles also, you don't expect that, but it tickles when it's coming off, and you're just like, oh, I hate this. Adhesive was a huge thing for me. And then also specifically for Breezy's, our design is a huge thing. So making sure that the fabric was also nice quality. Like it feels very soft to the touch. So it's not very annoying on the skin. And then also the print and the color. So I got so many samples that were either not sticky enough or not printed clearly enough. So you have to just kind of go through and see if you can find one that has that perfect balance. And I finally was able to find our manufacturer who could do all of the things that I was looking for. But it really is just a trial and error process, and it takes a long time, and it's very stressful because each time you get one, you're so excited. You're like, "This is gonna be the one." And then you open it and you're like, "Oh, not quite." So it's just yeah, just trial and error, testing and just waiting and being patient, I think also.
Yeah, absolutely. We had another founder on the podcast who went through 300 samples. 300 samples, and I had
No,
never heard of a number so high in my life. Her
that
product is
hurts.
absolutely incredible, but
Yeah, of
truly,
course it is.
sample after 300 tries, she makes an incredible product. So it is good to
Wow.
know that samples do cost money,
Yes.
and it is a trial and error process that takes a lot longer. So then after you get your samples, you find the one that you love, then it moves into the packaging and design. And
Yeah.
design is a huge part of your brand. It's pretty much your key differentiator for sure, building that confidence and making sure it's girly and fun and attractive enough to wear outside without it
Yeah.
looking very clinical. So, how did you design the brand and how did you actually get the floral designs that you have onto the Breezy strips?
Yeah. So I designed all of the designs we have now personally. I just used Illustrator, and I just
Mhm.
worked with the. I knew I wanted to have at least 3 designs because not everyone loves a strawberry. Not everyone loves a like dark blue starry night look. So I wanted to make sure everybody had a strip that could represent how they feel or just match their different outfits throughout the week. So I designed everything on Illustrator and then I just created a pattern basically. And then I sent that to my manufacturer and was like, will this print properly? And then they sent more samples back, had to pay for some more samples. And then after a couple of reiterations of that, I finally got a couple samples where I was like, this looks really good. But it was really just playing around with designs on Illustrator and, looking up trends. Also at the time, I was looking up what like designs are trending, what colors are trending, and just a lot of market research in that sense.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I'm sure you have your email notifications for whenever the Pantone color of the year comes
Yes.
out. And Pinterest predicts reports, which I love reading every year. It is an incredible
Yes, me
report.
too.
And then what is the other one? Like Coloro. I think they also have a color of the
Oh,
year that comes out.
this one I haven't heard of. I'll have to look that up.
Ooh, please do because their colors are cool. Cool, 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 cool,
Okay.
cool. Please do. Shout out to Color Up. And as you're making these designs, you really wanted a creative outlet, even though you work in a creative space every day. How has having Breezy's been a creative outlet for you?
Yeah. I do work in a very creative full-time job, but I also a lot of the job that I do is very technical and project management heavy, organizing everything that we work with. So Breezy's has actually been more of a creative outlet than my full-time job in film, which is surprising to a lot of people. And I think it's just because, designing the strips itself is like it's very fun and that's just the most creative part I would say is make actually designing the strips, but that was only for the beginning. So once the strips were made, I think the creative outlet has been, marketing. Marketing has been so much fun and our Instagram has been through so many different iterations. I have learned as I go again what works, what doesn't, and it's kind of just fun to test out new ideas. So I've been able to put my filmmaking background into creating reels and TikToks and doing things that. So that's been really fun and it can be a little bit challenging sometimes as well, but I think that's what makes it creative.
That's really cool. That's such an interesting intersection of working in film and knowing what that's like at a very high level. And then also being a small business where marketing and video content is of the utmost important nowadays. And having a space where you can blend those two things together is really, really cool. Everybody go check out her content and give her a like and follow.
Yeah, thank you.
So, switching gears a little bit here, since you have been operating Breezy's now for 2 years, you're in the scaling phase and the growing phase. And you're not just selling D2C on your website, you do, but you also started selling Breezy's on Amazon in the early stages. What is the process for getting a brand on Amazon?
Yeah. Amazon is So much fun. It's a big challenge to like learn in the beginning, and it's very daunting, I would say. But the friend of mine that I mentioned before, he had been selling on Amazon, so that was really helpful to have a little bit of like guidance in certain things. Like anytime I was like, I have no idea what this means, he was like, "Oh, here you go." He always had answers to my questions. So definitely finding a friend once again. But the main process is creating your product on Amazon and then creating like the listing photos. And they have very specific guidelines for what you have to put on there. And then making sure that your listing is also SEO optimized, using keywords and all that. But I would say the main challenge is actually getting the product to Amazon. Every single time I have to reship inventory to Amazon, I get anxiety because it's just the timing of everything is very difficult to make sure you're planning out properly. Because even if you like plan out way in ahead, um, they'll be like, this is taking too long. And you're like, yeah, I'm trying to work with my manufacturer. So just making sure you're hitting the right deadlines is very important. But honestly, getting onto Amazon to start out is pretty simple. It's just signing up for a seller account and getting all of your business, like LLC, entered into it. And it's pretty simple. After that, you just get a confirmation and you can just get started.
There you go. Get your products on Amazon, you guys. And you set it up perfectly of what is actually needed to be on Amazon. And I always assumed that the operations and logistics of stocking a major retailer like Amazon would be the hardest part.
Yeah.
So, for founders out there, what would they need to have set up or some advice for them that they would need going into making that logistics and operations process a little bit easier?
Yeah, I would say definitely having a freight forwarder is a really big thing. A freight forwarder is basically just a middleman who picks up your product from your manufacturer and like handles everything for you. I've been working with the same freight forwarder since I started. I actually met him at my boyfriend's work party one day, and he mentioned he was a freight forwarder, and I was like, "Wait, what?" I'm actually looking for one. So I've been working with him ever since. But just having somebody that you really trust as well. Like, make sure you like trust that person to handle your goods because he was like, I know this is like so important to you, so I'm going to do as much as I can to make sure it's always safe. But they also have relationships with big companies like Amazon and other brands like Walmart. So they know the process as well. So they'll kind of like be your checks and balances also. So if you're missing something, they'll be like, hey, do you happen to have this that Amazon needs? And I was like, no, let me find it for you. So I would say finding the right freight forwarder is a big deal.
And that is so interesting. I've never heard of a freight forwarder, so that is going to be added to my Google list today that I will be searching up all day because I'm now so interested. And you've also learned a lot about wholesaling in the retail space. So where else are Breezy strips stocked and how did you get those opportunities to come to you?
Yeah, so Breezy's is stocked currently in Urban Outfitters in their top 60 doors in the United States and also online. And then we also had a small sale with Anthropologie, but those are officially sold out. So we've worked with both of them, which is so crazy.
That's amazing. Having
Yeah.
60 doors at Urban Outfitters, which is such a great retail partner for
Yeah.
Breezy's. I love going into Urban Outfitters and both shopping, but also window shopping because
Yeah.
their stock is through the roof. You will never find
Yes.
anything like it anywhere else. And same with Anthropologie. So it totally makes sense that you were in those sister brands together. And what would be your advice for founders looking to get into retail spaces?
Yeah. So honestly, this was so shocking to me, but they had reached out to me. On Urban Outfitters reached out over Instagram and Anthropologie reached out over email. And I both times was like, this is spam or like, there's no way this is real. I could not believe it. So I went on LinkedIn and checked their names and I was like, they're real people. This is insane. So I would say making sure while you're building your business, even if you're not ready, being online and being on Instagram and TikTok, because I think that's how they found us. Since they reached out through those platforms is a big deal. So definitely just even when you're not ready, just start posting. it could get the attention of someone you would never expect.
A lot of
Yeah.
connections from founders that come on this podcast that are generated through social media, which just is another proof point of building in public, building in community, and posting even though you're not ready. So you got these initial DMs and emails. What was the conversation like from DM to getting into stores?
Yeah, specifically with Urban, it's so funny. Every time I go to our thread on Gmail, it's so long. We went back and forth so many times, just like answering his questions, him answering mine. But it was mostly like them saying, like, these are the amount of units we want. Is it possible to do this? So, like, for Urban specifically, they asked if we could do a new design for the stores because our packaging is very e-commerce based. It's very cute and beautiful, but it's kind of assuming you know what the product is because you bought it online. But they wanted us to make a more retail friendly version of the packaging that when you are browsing the stores, like you said, window shopping and you like see it, you know what it is immediately. So that was a big back and forth that we had trying to figure out what what they needed from that. So I designed a new packaging for Urban and just going back and forth with approvals and making sure they liked it and everything fit their guidelines.
Yeah. And what were
Yeah.
those key differences between e-commerce packaging and retail packaging? In my brain, what I saw was clear packaging, maybe, where you could actually see the strips in some type of pouch or pocket or whatever it is. So what were those differences from e-commerce to retail?
Yeah. So I wish I had examples to show you, but the e-commerce box is very brand heavy. So it's Breezy's on the top and it does have a picture of the strip on the side and like a little bit of info on the edges. But the Urban one is the front of the packaging because it's being hung on a peg. Everything is on the front. You can see what the strip looks on the front. You can see the Breezy's logo on the front. You can see what our mission statement is, the nasal strip that looks as good as it feels. It just all is right there on the front. So when you're walking by, immediately you can kind of get a story. And then when you flip it over, it gives a little bit more information, but it's more so just that for the window shopper who's just kind of walking around. They can kind of look over, see something and be like, what is that? Read it and be like, oh, I know what that is immediately. So it took a lot of taking our because I really wanted to keep our brand design, but honestly, I love our Urban Outfitter boxes. I think they're so cute. So if you find them, that's a fun little Easter egg.
That's so cool. That is really interesting. I have never thought about the difference in packaging between e-commerce and retail, but the way you put it is perfect. You have to be able to catch eyes on a
Yeah.
shelf, and 9 times out of 10, everything does need to be on the front.
Yeah.
Typically, the only reason you would turn to the back is if you're looking at a nutrition label, which you don't have a
Right.
nutrition label.
Right.
That's when you
Exactly.
something off the shelf and you're said, "Oh, I'm interested in this. Look at the nutrition label, see if there's anything that's alarming or whatever." But you don't have that. So everything does truly need to be on the front. I'm going to now be shopping in a completely different way after this episode. I'm so excited to
Yeah,
go look at
ever
stuff.
since I started designing for Urban, now every time I'm in stores, I'm really looking at how brands are designing their packaging for stores because I'm, oh, that's interesting. I'll note that for next time because it's a different thing completely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
did you have to change anything about the sizing? I know in retail stores, it's a lot about shelf space or how much actual, not necessarily square footage, you're not big enough for that, but what space you're going to literally take up on the shelf. So is that part of your conversations with them as well?
I think they did have like limitations for how big things were, but honestly, Breezy's boxes, like our e-commerce version, is very small. So the urban ones are actually slightly bigger, which is surprising, but it just had to be so that you could fit all the information that they wanted.
Yeah.
But they do have limitations, of course.
That makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. And as you're in these doors and you've sold out of Anthropologie, you're D2C, you're on Amazon, that's like such a crazy cool sentence to have said.
I'm like like shell shocked every time. I'm like, I can't believe it.
That is so cool. I'm so proud of you
Yeah.
for
Thank
sure.
you. Thank you so
Y-
much.
I know before the episode we were chatting about how you're wanting to grow and scale this company specifically this year in 2026. You're setting some pretty aggressive revenue goals for the brand. What is your plan and strategy for reaching those revenue goals this year?
Yeah. I think the biggest things are a lot of marketing, just making sure the product is getting in front of people who might not know about it or, might not know they need it. So a lot of social media. So I actually just hired my first two hires. They're both contractors, but they're helping me so much with social media, content creation, and then also starting our first affiliate program with creators on TikTok and Instagram. So reaching out to so many creators and starting this community of people who love Breezy's themselves and want to be a part of it. And that's been really fun to see, people posting about my product who actually wear the product. So I think starting that and just really growing that is my big plan for hitting those revenue goals.
That's huge. Are you toying with TikTok Shop?
Yes, and it's been very fun to learn and very clunky certain times, but it's another one of those things where everything is figure outable. You can figure it out
Yeah.
as you go. But I've also the girl who I'm working with, she's incredible, and she's also a female founder, and so she's starting her own business. So it's really fun because we kind of bounce ideas off of each other for our businesses, but she also helps me with Breezy. And she's also a little younger, so she's more into that, Gen Z mentality, which I love.
That's awesome. Let us know when you're on TikTok Shop because I'm going to have a lot of questions. Just like Amazon, how do you get on TikTok Shop? How do you run TikTok Shop? And if you will be going on TikTok Live.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I see that all the time. I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." That's another thing.
Have you done any paid social strategy yet?
I have tried in the past, and honestly, I think it's one of those things where you just have to keep trying and see if you get it right because I have found it hasn't worked very well for me, but I think it's just I need to get the right creatives and doing more A/B testing to see which ones really are resonating with people because I did it very early, in the
Mm,
brand where it was just me making videos. So I'm like, I think starting now using paid advertising could be useful, but I'm trying to start creating the content first, seeing how it performs, and then investing money into paid.
yeah, it's always good to know what's working on organic and then even taking those best assets, that best creative and running ads with that to see how
Yeah.
that performs and then also building on it to become what only works on paid, what only works on organic and like splitting up the two. But it's always good to figure out what your voice is, what your style is going to be, what's going to be quote unquote scroll stopping for people
Yes.
and figure out where you are in that space before putting a ton of money behind paid because paid is expensive, you
It is very
guys.
expensive. Yes. So
It's
you have to make sure you're picking the right content for sure.
that you truly, truly are, and I completely understand that, and as you're growing and scaling and you're adding TikTok Shop, you're adding 2 people to your team that's gonna help in the marketing space. What is your tool stack for keeping yourself and your business running on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I think you also use this, but I'm a big Notion girly. I track everything in Notion, and that's been like I've been doing that since I started Breezy's, and it's just my brain lives in Notion. Like everything is there, and it's so nice to just be able to have it all, so you can check off boxes, and it's a little dopamine rush. But then I also love a physical planner. I've been using Grace Beverly's planner from the Productivity Method,
Mhm.
and that one's been really nice. But yeah, just using a mix of digital and physical because writing things down also helps you remember things a lot more. So yeah, just kind of a mix of both. Yeah, everything has to be out of this head and on something because otherwise it's gone.
In the same way, I use a Notion and then I also have a physical planner, and then I have a ton of tools that I'm using in my businesses slash even just this podcast, but I've also seen a lot of conversations on TikTok specifically on what you're using for email marketing, or if you're even doing email marketing, SMS, anything like that. What else lives in the Breezy toolkit?
Yeah. So I was using Klaviyo for email marketing, but I recently was working with a Shopify. He used to work at Shopify and now he's just like helping founders like kind of build their Shopifys. And he was like, I think you should kind of stick to Shopify, the email messaging in there because it's very built. It's like simple. And then as you expand, maybe you can look into doing Klaviyo because I was doing both Klaviyo and Shopify emails and
Mm,
it was just like mixing. And he was like, let's try to keep it all in one. And I'm like, that's actually a great idea. I don't know why I didn't think of that. So I'm kind of reverting back to just using the Shopify messaging in there. And so emailing through that. And then Rella has been super helpful for social media. So the girl that I work with who runs all of our socials, it's so nice. She'll just send me, like all of the social content ideas and then I look through them and I approve them and then she edits and posts them and then, I can just it's a very nice back and forth and then it auto schedules for you as well. So that's if people aren't aware of that tool, I think it's relatively new, but it's super helpful.
Yeah, Rella is a stellar social media tool. I
Yeah.
tested it last year and it's so funny because I literally this morning I was like, I think I need to get my Rella membership back. I
Yeah.
tested it because it was new to market and working in the social media space. I always just like to keep up with the tools that are out there, what's new to market. I also get a
Yeah.
ton of their ads. So shout out to I think it's Natalie, who's their founder.
Yeah. I was gonna say female founder.
Yeah, female founder, shout out to her because she is killing it on the paid social
Yeah.
route. But I literally was thinking this morning, I should get my Rella account back because I too have so many social media accounts now, not only for
Yeah.
personal, but for businesses. And I'm like, I need to show up in a lot of places, but how do I do that? What's the best platform for that? Because vetted them all and
Yeah.
Rella does, she's top tier. So if you're a founder out there with multiple social media accounts, and I'm talking like multiple, you're probably posting on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, X, LinkedIn, like you are posting on almost every platform out there, coming from at least the two women up here. Go with Rella.
Yeah,
Rella, please.
definitely.
Thank
Yes.
you. Just a little shameless plug there, Rella. It's totally fine.
Absolutely.
It'd be great. And during these crazy times of balancing everything, the social media, the page, your own job, and building a business, it's a roller coaster. And online, we typically see the highlight reel. What has been your hack for navigating the low periods of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, there's been many low periods, and I feel like I need to be better about sharing those too, because I think everybody does this. We only want to share the exciting things. Just got into Urban Outfitters, but also what you didn't see was me on the living room floor crying because I didn't have enough boxes and not knowing what to do. And there are so many moments where you feel like you're so behind and you're just like trying so hard but it's just catching up with you. But I think things that I've been trying to do is actually meditation in the past couple of like months has been huge for me. I always was kind of hesitant with it because I'm like I just simply can't turn my brain off, but that's why it's so good because you have to give yourself some time to just like turn your brain off because if you don't, it's just going to keep running forever and then you're going to get tired and burnt out. So I'm doing even 20 minutes of just laying down and listening to a guided meditation or a nice frequency, I think has been super helpful in just resetting. And it brings your mood back up and it helps your nervous system a lot too. So, and if you're wearing your breezies while you're doing it, oh, come on. So definitely meditation. And then I also go to therapy every week, which is super helpful. And then I just talk about all the issues that I'm having and just getting them out of your head, like I said, and into the world has been super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Shout out to the mental health therapists out there and
No.
also meditation. Meditation is so good, you guys. I know it seems really scary and strange at the very beginning, but it truly is a practice. You get better at it over time and you figure out what works and what doesn't work. So, for any stressed out founders out there or just people building something meaningful, try it. It's not as scary as
Yeah,
you think and you'll get better over time.
it's so nice.
And I've seen a lot of female founders who have been on this podcast and or just out in the world who are building in public, who are building their own personal brands along with their brands themselves. Are you building in public? And if so, how has that experience been?
Yeah, I would say I definitely am. I mean, I started posting on socials in 2023, I think, before I launched. And I do remember the first time I posted on my personal Instagram because I'm a very shy person, introvert, like in my personal life. So, like, I would post on Instagram every month. Maybe I was one of those people who would dump things on Instagram and be like, this is what I've been up to if you care. So, I remember the day I think I have to start telling people about this business I'm building. I put my little tripod up and was filming, hey guys, posting on my personal Instagram. And I remember that day, like it's like burned into my brain of just being so scared. I was so intimidated by the thought of all of the girls from high school seeing Haley on her Instagram talking about this business she's building. And I felt so insecure about it. And why am I insecure? I'm literally building a business. This is something that people probably would be, that's awesome. But you just have these immediate fears where you're like, oh, they're gonna be judging me. And it's funny, I came across that video that I posted, and the organic video is probably like 17 minutes long because I just kept going, oh my God, this is so crazy. But yeah, posting for the first time was very scary. But as I started doing it, it got so natural. And obviously there are still moments where I'm just like, oh my God, this is so silly. What am I doing? But it's been really nice. I've met so many different people by doing it. I've like joined a group of girls who are all founding their own businesses because I've been posting on TikTok, and we found each other there. So it's just a great way to like build community, and then also look back on your progress too. I love looking at my old videos and being, oh my God, she was so pure, and innocent, and she's learned so much, and I'm so proud of her. And it's just a nice way to like, see how far you've come too.
Absolutely. I struggle sometimes too posting on my personal account. That is it,
Yeah.
I'm still in the stage where that is super, super cringy, but I
Yeah.
do it, especially for the podcast. I do it a lot for the podcast, and I think all of my friends and family are just slowly realizing that it is my version of a baby as, like, a single
Yeah.
person with no partner. I'm like, "The podcast is my baby, so as much as you guys
Exactly.
post about your weddings and your partners and your kids, I'm gonna do the same thing, but her name is
Yes.
Podcast, and I do love her." But it still does, it has those moments of cringe, but over time, I've realized, same as you, it gets easier and you just have to keep at it. Now on TikTok, I don't think there's anybody who really knows me who follows me on TikTok. So I post everything over there,
I
and
love it.
that's what I love.
Yes, the unhinged version, just
The
full.
truly version goes on TikTok and the attempted prowess version goes on it.
Yeah.
That's
It's
okay.
so funny it's always stayed that way, like, they both have
Truly.
their own personalities, you know?
They really, really do. Different types of content works on different platforms
Yeah.
as well. So we won't get into all of that. We won't do that today. We'll have another social media class on Trenches, the podcast about it.
Yes.
But for our founders out there who also have 9 to 5 jobs, walk us through your typical day as a founder and a 9 to 5er and just like a person.
Yeah. So actually having the girl who's helping me now has been so helpful because we basically do a big batch film day on a Sunday and then everything is done. But before it was all me. And that was very difficult to balance, but it was mostly like I work from home on Mondays and Fridays for my full-time job. So on those days, I'll wake up early and I would get my tripod out and I'd film in the mornings. And then during my lunch, I would edit and I would edit after work. And so it was just finding those little pockets of me time that I could fit all of this into. So making sure that, I was still present for my full time job, but also just making sure I was getting what I needed done when I had the time. So, like, just finding those little pockets of time that work for you. And working from home is definitely a huge privilege in that sense because you do have a little bit. I don't have to commute. I live in Los Angeles, so commuting is like 45 minutes to an hour. So I don't have to commute those days. So those commuting times I give to Breezy. So yeah, just finding those little times that you can and lunches.
It's so great to know how you're fitting all of this into your life while having the time commitment that is a 9 to 5 job. But
Yeah.
also, as an entrepreneur, you are the only person keeping yourself accountable and keeping yourself disciplined to making sure that you use those times that you do have, not just scrolling, or if you are scrolling, scrolling with a purpose to get some
Yeah.
inspiration. How have you built accountability and discipline into your life, and how do you uphold those?
That's a good question. I think for me, I think it's just something that comes naturally. Anytime I do have free time, I'm like, okay, what can I do? What's like something that I can do to move this forward or something that I can fill the, even if it's like 10 minutes of free time, I'm like, okay, what's something on my list that is only going to take 10 minutes that I can check off? So I think it's just partially just kind of how my brain is wired. I just always am a doer and to a point that like sometimes I'm like, I need to slow my roll.
So, you've mentioned a lot about your friends and your peers helping you along the way, whether they're founders themselves or operators in a certain space. As a young female founder, how has your experience been with your peers and your friends who may not be entrepreneurs?
So that's a fun question. Yeah, it can feel a little alienating, I think, sometimes, because as a founder, you're constantly thinking about your business, even in like little moments, like at dinner time, you're like, ooh, you just get a little idea. And so I think sometimes when talking to people about your business, it can be a little bit hard for them to understand. Obviously, they're not building a business. They don't know what it's like. So it can feel a little alienating because you want to talk to your closest friends about, the things you're going through, but sometimes they look at you like, I'm sorry, girl, I don't know what you're talking about. So in those senses, I think it's a little alienating, but it's also nice because you get a more a different perspective because like talking to a founder friend, they'll have a completely different thought than what you would have coming from someone who doesn't have a business because they have a completely different mindset. So I think it's great to have friends in the founder world but also friends that aren't, because it can give you so many different perspectives when it comes to talking about your business. But it also is so nice to have people who you can just shut that side of your brain off and you can just be yourself with who you were before your business. And I think that's really important too. Don't lose yourself in building your business. It's growing a part of you, but also there's a part of you that, you need to nurture that part as well by spending time with your friends and just turning off that side of your brain.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have some friends who are entrepreneurs and founders and some who are not, and I completely relate. Sometimes it feels very alienating and very isolated while you're in that building phase and while you're truly in the trenches. But you do need that time away from people who don't understand, and you do not have to talk about business whatsoever. And being young in our 20s and taking a different path at such a young age compared to some of our friends or some other people that we see. What has it been like for you taking that different path, and how has your experience been?
Yeah, it's been, I mean, I think this is the time to be doing it, like taking risks. And I mean, it just makes life feel more exhilarating. Like you have something that you're building on the side and you're balancing so much. But at the end of the day, you're also like, I don't know, why not? I think we have more this feeling of like, just take risks and like, see what happens. And it is very fun to just see where it goes. But it definitely also, I think being young in our 20s, like there's a lot of, things that people expect of you, like grow in your career and like all that. So when you say, oh, I'm starting a business, they're like, but why don't you just keep doing what you're doing? And so you get questions that, or people are, but you have like a job. Why are you starting a business? And it's like, because it's something I want to do. It's something I'm passionate about. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think balancing a lot of that.
Balancing it all. That is truly the the ethos of this podcast episode is balance.
Yeah.
And for our ambitious crew members out there that are deep in the trenches right now, what has really kept you going during those times?
I would say definitely like taking time to yourself. I try to have at least one day every week where I come home and I like from my full-time job and I just like don't do anything work-wise. I should probably have 2 days, but I try to keep one at least. And I think just like having rituals that are not just for work, but also just for yourself and your mental health. And then when you're feeling like imposter syndrome, I think like listening to podcasts like Trenches and also anything else that you find inspiring can be really helpful because you can feel like you're not alone when you're listening to things like this. It can be very validating to just hear people having conversations like this about the things that we're all going through. So, yeah, just finding people and podcasts and books and just different media that can make you feel heard and validated.
I love that. And that's a lot of the whole purpose of this entire podcast is to make entrepreneurship feel less lonely. That is what
Yeah.
I like to say. And so I definitely think that this episode specifically, I hope a lot of entrepreneurs, founders, students, somebody building something meaningful feels less alone by listening to especially this episode.
Yeah.
And zooming out for you, what is beyond the trenches for you? You have Breezy's, you have your full-time job. What's life going to look like in, we'll give it 5 to 10 years, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, my vision or my dream is to grow Breezy's, scale Breezy's, and maybe eventually not to have to balance the two and work just on Breezy solely. That would be my goal. I really am truly passionate about this brand, and I have that feeling where I'm like, I know it can go somewhere. I know it has the potential, and then I see it. So that's the reality I'm chasing after is like having Breezy's grow and having a team, working with the team. Because, being a solo entrepreneur is tough. So looking forward to that when I can delegate. Oh my goodness, that would be so nice.
That's so
Yes.
exciting. That's amazing. That's amazing. We'll be rooting for you all along the way for sure here at Trenches and the crew members.
Yeah.
So, for our closing question of today's episode, what is something you wish you could tell everyone listening to this podcast?
Ooh, I would say you're doing amazing. No matter what stage you're at, you might feel like you're behind and you're not. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And each step you take, you'll realize you're taking the steps needed and you're going to get to where you want to be. And then when you get there, you're going to have another couple steps to go forward. So it's just also enjoy the time you're in because I think we're constantly looking forward to things. So I've been really trying to focus on like being present in the moment and like enjoying this stage of building our business. So whatever stage you're in, just be very present and find the gratitude in the little moments. I think that's really important.
Thank you. You are our crew cheerleader at this point.
Yeah.
I think you are just your chief charisma officer of Trenches the
Love.
podcast. You will be our cheerleader. I love that. Thank you so much, Haley, for sharing your origin story with us here on Trenches. I cannot wait to continue watching you build Breezy's. And for our crew members out there, please check out the Breezy's website at breezystrips.com. Follow Breezy's on social media and or go to your local Urban Outfitters to pick up some Breezy strips,
Yeah.
which is so exciting. Again, Haley, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been awesome getting to know you, and I'm so grateful that you chose to spend some time with us today.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun.
And we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye. Don't forget to follow us on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Your likes, comments, and ratings make such a big difference in improving the show for each and every crew member. Also, if you're not already, come and join us on TikTok and Instagram at Trenches the Podcast, where we don't just share clips, we're creating a network of co-builders in the comments. Each post is designed to be a truly impactful addition to your scroll that will actually help you improve your journey in many different ways. Now, since you're already a part of the crew, this is how you step inside. By allocating to the fund on Patreon, you become a stakeholder in Trenches the Podcast and officially join our cap table. With access to private content, early drops, resources, and chats reserved for people truly in the work. Here is where you get the tools and the behind the scenes of what it really takes to get beyond the trenches. Your seat gives you direct access to contribute and make long-term decisions for our crew while finding community with fellow builders. It's time to take your seat at the table. Our mission is simple: make entrepreneurship less lonely. I'll see you in the next episode.